Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something we have wanted to do for a long time. A list dedicated entirely to pilot watches. Not watches that borrow the aesthetic language of aviation the way a sports car borrows the word cockpit, but watches with genuine, traceable, defensible connections to the world of flight. Instruments designed for pilots, worn by pilots, tested against the specific and unforgiving demands of the sky. Aviation timekeeping has a set of requirements unlike any other field: magnetic resistance against cockpit instrumentation, legibility in the fractional seconds available to a pilot scanning instruments during approach, multiple time zone tracking for international navigation, and in some cases the computational tools to perform in-flight calculations when electronics fail. Every watch on today's list was built to answer at least one of those demands seriously, and the watch at the very top answers all of them simultaneously at a level no other civilian timepiece has ever approached. Whether your cockpit is a commercial airliner, a single-engine Cessna, a simulator, or simply your imagination, today's list is for you. Let's fly. Number 10. Citizen ProMaster Nighthawk. The Citizen ProMaster Nighthawk is the pilot's watch that refuses to apologize for knowing exactly what it is and delivering it without drama or unnecessary expense. The Nighthawk is a dual time zone pilot's instrument, a watch designed for the pilot who crosses time zones as a professional routine rather than an occasional adventure. And it executes that function with the practical clarity that Citizen's engineering philosophy has always prioritized over decorative ambition. The second time zone is displayed via a 24-hour inner rotating bezel, allowing the wearer to read local time on the main dial while tracking home time or UTC on the 24-hour scale simultaneously, and to distinguish instantly whether that second time zone is experiencing day or night, which a 12-hour display cannot do. The EcoDrive solar charging system underneath eliminates the battery replacement question from the calculation entirely, charging from any light source and maintaining a reserve measured in months rather than days. The slide rule bezel, a circular computational tool for fuel consumption, speed, and distance calculations, is a functional inheritance from the great pilot's watches of the instrument era, present here not as decoration but as a working tool for anyone trained to use it. The blue and black dial with its layered information displays wears with the purposeful busyness of a genuine cockpit instrument rather than the affected complexity of a watch-playing dress-up. The Citizen ProMaster Nighthawk retails for approximately $395 USD. Number 9. Seiko Prospex Flightmaster. The Seiko Prospex Flightmaster is a watch with a revival story as compelling as its original history, a piece that Seiko produced in the 1970s as one of the most technically ambitious pilot's chronographs in Japanese watchmaking, allowed to disappear from the catalog for decades, and then brought back to a collector community that had spent years making clear it had never forgotten. The original Flightmaster of 1971 was a multifunction pilot's chronograph of considerable visual drama, a rotating inner bezel, a slide rule for in-flight computations, an elapsed time function, and a dial so dense with information that it rewarded the trained eye while remaining entirely legible in the way that only well-organized complexity can. The modern reissue honors that character with faithful attention to the proportions, dial architecture, and functional logic of the original while housing a contemporary Seiko movement of solid caliber and reliable performance. The case, substantial, purposeful, wearing the confident bulk that serious pilot's instruments require, sits on the wrist with the authority of something that was not designed to be comfortable with itself eventually, but arrived that way from the beginning. For the collector who appreciates Japanese watchmaking's aviation heritage and the particular satisfaction of a watch that rewards research, the Flightmaster is a discovery that consistently delivers more than the price prepares you for. The Seiko Prospex Flightmaster retails for approximately $650 USD. Number 8. Casio G-Shock Gravity Master. The Casio G-Shock Gravity Master is the watch that takes everything the G-Shock platform does: the shock resistance that has never been seriously challenged, the water resistance, the solar charging, the atomic radio timekeeping synchronization, and reconfigures it specifically for the environment where those properties matter most acutely: the cockpit. The Gravity Master is a pilot's instrument engineered to survive everything that aviation can deliver: the vibration of turbulence, the electromagnetic interference of avionics systems, the pressure variations of rapid altitude change, the temperature extremes of flight at altitude. The triple sensor variants include an altimeter, barometer, and compass, a suite of environmental readings that transforms the watch from a time-displaying instrument into a situational awareness tool of genuine utility during flight or in emergency navigation scenarios on the ground. The Master of G series, to which the Gravity Master belongs, represents the apex of Casio's professional engineering. Watches submitted to and surviving environmental tests that most luxury instruments would not survive entry-level exposure to. The carbon core guard structure in higher-end references brings aerospace material technology to the case construction, reducing weight while maintaining the structural integrity that the G-Shock promise demands. This is not a watch that looks like it belongs in a cockpit. It is a watch that was engineered to function in one. The Casio G-Shock Gravity Master retails from approximately $350 USD. Number 7. Hamilton Khaki Aviation Pilot Day Date. The Hamilton Khaki Aviation Pilot Day Date is the watch that takes Hamilton's century-long relationship with military and aviation timekeeping, a relationship built on actually supplying instruments to actual pilots in actual aircraft across generations of flight history, and delivers it in one of the most practically complete and daily wearable packages the brand has ever produced. The day-date complication, displaying both the full day of the week and the numerical date simultaneously in dedicated windows on the dial, is the right complication for a professional pilot whose schedule crosses international date lines and whose situational awareness of the current day and date is an operational necessity rather than a casual convenience. The 46mm case is large by conventional dress watch standards and entirely appropriate by pilot's watch standards, a size determined by the legibility requirements of instrument panels rather than the fashion preferences of wrist-conscious consumers. The bold Arabic numerals, the luminous sword hands, and the matte black dial that eliminates reflective glare under cockpit lighting all reproduce the functional vocabulary of Hamilton's military instrument heritage with an authenticity that is earned rather than assumed. The automatic ETA movement inside provides the self-winding reliability that daily professional wear requires, and the exhibition caseback rewards the curious owner with the mechanical view that Hamilton's transparent confidence invites. The Hamilton Khaki Aviation Pilot Day Date retails for approximately $895 USD. Number 6. Tissot Heritage Navigator. The Tissot Heritage Navigator is the watch that reconnects Tissot, a brand too often evaluated only through its contemporary catalog, with one of the richest and most technically interesting chapters in its own history. The Navigator was originally introduced by Tissot in the 1950s as a world time watch for aviation professionals, a complication that displays the current time in all 24 time zones simultaneously, allowing a navigator to read the time in any city in the world at a single glance without calculation or conversion. That function, developed during the jet age when international aviation was expanding faster than navigators could memorize time zone arithmetic, was a genuine operational tool. And the Heritage Navigator's reissue brings it back in a form of considerable charm and historical fidelity. The 24-city world time display, the rotating bezel with its time zone chapter ring, and the warm vintage aesthetic, applied to a case of appropriate proportions with a cream dial and typography drawn from Tissot's archival design vocabulary, combine into a watch of genuine collector appeal. The automatic movement inside provides the self-winding reliability the Heritage Navigator's daily wear character demands. This is a watch for the aviation enthusiast who appreciates that the history of pilots' watches is as interesting as the watches themselves, and who wants that history on their wrist. The Tissot Heritage Navigator retails for approximately $950 USD. Number 5. Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot. The Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot is the watch in which Oris's fundamental brand values, independence, honest Swiss quality, functional design justified by genuine purpose, find their most direct and compelling aviation expression. The Pro Pilot family descends directly from the Big Crown heritage that Oris established with its military pilots' watches of the 1930s and 1940s, when the oversized crown, designed to be operated by pilots wearing flight gloves without removing them, gave the collection its name and its most immediately recognizable visual anchor. The modern Pro Pilot maintains that defining feature while building around it a case and dial architecture of contemporary professional pilots' watch seriousness. Large, unambiguous Arabic numerals printed with the boldness that cockpit legibility demands, hands of maximum luminous coverage, and case sizes from 39mm to 44mm that offer appropriate proportions across the range. The GMT variant adds a fourth hand for second time zone tracking, a complication of direct practical utility for the commercial aviator operating across multiple time zones in a single duty cycle. The automatic movements inside are reliable Swiss calibers of honest specification, And Oris's decision to remain independent rather than seek acquisition by a larger group gives the Pro Pilot a manufacturing integrity that the brand's pricing does not always get credit for. The Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot retails for approximately $1,500 USD. Number 4. Longines Avigation Big Eye. The Longines Avigation Big Eye is a watch of such specific historical fidelity and such genuine vintage aviation character that wearing it is less an act of accessorizing and more an act of archival engagement. A direct connection to the era when pilots wore navigational instruments on their wrists because the instruments they needed did not yet exist in any other form. The Big Eye recreates a family of Longines pilots' chronographs from the 1930s and 1940s, whose defining feature was an enlarged subdial for elapsed seconds timing, the Big Eye of the collection's name, positioned at 9 o'clock, with a diameter large enough to read instantly during the time-critical measurement of in-flight calculations. That proportional decision, driven entirely by the legibility requirements of real aerial navigation, gives the Big Eye its instantly distinctive face, asymmetric, purposeful, and beautiful in the way that only function expressed without compromise can be beautiful. The 41mm cushion-shaped case in stainless steel reproduces the profile of the wartime originals with remarkable accuracy, and the silver dial with its warm printing and period-correct typography creates a vintage atmosphere of complete, convincing authenticity. The in-house Longines L788 hand wound movement connects the Big Eye to the tradition of manually wound pilot's chronographs that preceded it, requiring the daily engagement of winding that the instrument era demanded. This is Longines at its most historically fluent. The Longines Avigation Big Eye retails for approximately $3,250 USD. Number 3. IWC Pilot's Watch. Mark Twaity. The IWC Pilot's Watch Mark Twaity is the living continuation of one of watchmaking's most disciplined and unbroken lineages. A series of professional instruments that began with the military commission, evolved through every generation of aviation technology, and has arrived in the Mark Twaity as perhaps the most refined and daily wearable expression of everything the Mark series has always stood for. IWC has been producing pilot's watches under military specification since the 1930s, and the soft iron inner case that protects the movement against magnetic field interference is a design solution so fundamental to the instrument's purpose that it has been carried forward through every Mark reference without exception. Present in the Mark Twaity not as heritage styling but as operational engineering that remains as relevant in the era of Cockpit. Avionics as it was in the era of the compass and the slide rule. The 40mm case represents a deliberate and welcome recalibration from the oversized references that preceded it. A return to proportions that wear with the comfort and versatility that a daily instrument requires, sliding beneath a cuff for the debrief and sitting on the wrist with equal authority during the flight itself. The matte black dial with its bold white Arabic numerals, the luminous cathedral hands, and the IWC triangle marker at 12 o'clock achieve a legibility so complete and so immediate that reading the time feels less like consulting a watch and more like receiving information. The in-house Caliber 32111 with its 60-hour power reserve completes a package of absolute conviction. The IWC Pilot's Watch Mark 6X retails for approximately $5,700 USD. Number 2. Breitling Navitimer. The Breitling Navitimer is the greatest pilot's watch ever designed for civilian sale, a statement whose justification is built into the watch's dial in the form of a fully operational circular slide rule that trained aviators have used in the air to perform every computational task that flight navigation demands. The Navitimer was not inspired by aviation, did not borrow aviation's visual language, and was not retroactively associated with flight through celebrity endorsement or brand partnership. It was designed in 1952 as a functional instrument for the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of America, whose members adopted it as their official watch and wore it as a working tool rather than a prestige accessory. The slide rule bezel, with its logarithmic scales for speed, distance, fuel consumption, rate of climb, and unit conversion, is not decoration. It is arithmetic made physical, a computational device that predates the electronic flight computer and that pilots trained on still consider faster for certain calculations than reaching for a screen. The dial's density, those concentric rings of information that first-time wearers find overwhelming, is the direct consequence of carrying a complete navigational computer on a 43mm or 46mm canvas. The modern Navitimer, powered by Breitling's Co-SC certified in-house Caliber 01 with its 70-hour power reserve, brings this extraordinary heritage into the present with the movement quality the instrument's legacy demands. No pilot's watch has a better story. The Breitling Navy timer retails for approximately $8,900 USD. Number 1. Omega Speedmaster X33 Mars Timer. The Omega Speedmaster X33 Mars Timer sits at the top of today's list because it represents something that no other watch on this list and very few watches anywhere can claim. It is a precision instrument designed in active collaboration with real space agencies for real spaceflight use, incorporating mission-specific functions that exist nowhere else in civilian watchmaking. And it wears that extraordinary purpose with a completeness and conviction that makes every other pilot's watch on this list look, by comparison, like it is playing a role the Mars Timer was actually born to perform. The X33 platform has been Omega's professional aviation and space instrument since the 1990s, worn by astronauts of NASA, ESA, and other agencies as a backup timekeeping instrument during missions where the Speedmaster Professional provides the mechanical baseline and the X33 provides the mission-specific digital functionality that mechanical watches cannot deliver. The Mars Timer is the most specialized expression of that platform yet produced. Its functions include universal time coordinated display, a mission elapsed timer, a mission phase timer, a countdown function, 2 independent alarms, and the feature that gives the watch its name, a dedicated Mars Sol timer, displaying time according to the Martian day of 24 hours, 39 minutes and 35.244 seconds, a timekeeping reference that no other commercial watch in history has incorporated. The movement is Omega's Caliber 5622, a thermocompensated quartz with an accuracy of plus or minus 15 seconds per year, housed in a 45 mm titanium case of aerospace specification and worn on a Velcro strap in the manner that spaceflight demands. The Mars Timer is not the most beautiful watch on today's list, nor the most classically elegant, nor the most historically romantic. It is the most functionally extraordinary instrument that civilian watchmaking has ever produced, a watch designed not for the airspace above us but for the planet beyond it, worn on the wrist of the generation that will go there. The Omega Speedmaster X33 Mars Timer retails for approximately $5,400 USD.